Hello everyone, welcome to another video from Human Resource Management. In this video, let us examine various off-the-job training methods. One of the previous video we have discussed about on-the-job training methods. Here we are just going to discuss various off-the-job training methods. Now let us examine what is on-the-job training. On-the-job, as mentioned earlier, on-the-job means that employees are moved away from the workplace and they attend the training. That is basically off-the-job training. So which is employee is separated from the job situation so that his or her attention is not distracted by job requirements. So he can very freely attend the training. So that is off-the-job training basically. Various off-the-job training methods include lecture method, conference, case study, role play, program instruction, and T group training. And again, vestibule training also sometimes is considered as an off-the-job training. Let us examine all these methods in detail. In all these cases, employees are separated from workplace and they undergo the training. The first method under off-the-job category is lecture method. Lecture is a form of a talk. An instructor organizes the material and gives to a group of employees or trainees in the form of a talk. This is actually suitable for a larger. It is even suitable for a larger number of trainees and employees. And again, a lecture can be very much useful or helpful in explaining the concepts and principles very clearly. In lecture is actually a kind of a talk so that the practical side or practical experience may not be very evident here, but it is very helpful in understanding the concept, the principle, new updates, etc. So that is basically a lecture method, an important method of off-the-job training, but very simple and very commonly used method, lecture. Another method is a conference or discussion. A conference or discussion. The trainer delivers a lecture and involves the trainee in a discussion so that doubts about the job get clarified. So that is basically conference. Very often we hear the term conference, international conference, national conference, etc. Mostly one-day conference, two-day conference, where employees attend the training, attend the conference, and related to some common themes. It can be some job related matters, some strategic changes with regard to organization. So it could be anything, some upcoming issues. Everything can be a theme of a conference. Okay, basically conference will try to ensure two-way communication. In a conference, participants are split into small groups. There is a possibility that they are divided into small groups and they are explore their ideas. So which ensures more participation in conference when compared to lecture. One limitation of lecture is that participation may not be participation or two-way communication may not be assured in a lecture, but in conference it can be assured through various modes of small group discussion, etc. And the feedback also taken very frequently, so that is also another advantage of conference is also another important method. Again, one challenge is that the success of a conference purely depends upon the facilitator or the trainer, the person who leads the conference. So that is also another important thing, and another important thing or one point that is triggering the success of or influencing the success of a conference. Okay, so conference or discussion is also another off-the-job training method. To attend a conference also, employees has to move out from the office and they have to move out of the office and attend. So that is why conference is considered as an off-the-job training method. Another method is role playing. In this scenario, in this method, problem situation is simulated by asking employee to assume the role of a certain person, and the participants interact with other participants assuming different roles. So that is basically a role play. It can be defined as a method of human interaction that which involves a realistic behavior in an imaginary situation. Just we are assuming roles. Just for example, you are taking a sales environment or in a sales training, we can have various role plays where some of the trainees or employees assume the role of a salesperson, few others assume the role of a customers, and some particular sales scenario can be role played. So through that role play, they can learn a lot of strategies or lot of things, from how to sell a product or how to manage an angry customer. Various things can be learned through role play. The role play, the all role play can be recorded, and trainees get an opportunity to examine their performance when it is recorded. And it's a very good method to develop interpersonal skills because it has good human interactions, and because people are acting together, and it is helpful in developing good interpersonal skills or interpersonal relationship as well. So role play is another off the job method. Another method is case study. Case study deals with any problem confronted by a business which can be solved by an employee. A popular case, the trainee is given an opportunity to analyze the case, and they can come out with some possible solution. There are multiple solutions can be possible in a case study. And this method can enhance or improve analytical skills and the critical thinking of a trainee or employee. So that is actually, or problem solving skills, etc., can be enhanced by a case study. Also, it will help to understand how a trainee has to, employee has to manage some particular situations, and because some cases are related to some business scenario, that will be helpful in them to understand and analyze, as well as manage some similar situation when they come in, when they face such situation in future. So that is case study is another method. Another one of the job training method is a program learning or program instruction, whereas the medium is can be a textbook or can be mostly a computer or internet based system, where step by step training is possible in three different phases. First phase is trainees or participants attend the question, and then they are answering the question, and the feedback is given to them. So that is basically the three-stage process is basically called as program instruction. Okay. Mostly it is getting popular in these days. The subject matter to be learned is presented in a series of carefully planned sequential units or questions. Maybe mostly unit or sections may be given, and these units are arranged from simple to complex, because maybe it may start with a few simple questions, slowly it goes to more of complex set of questions, where participants can have a self-learning. So that is basically a program instruction, and the trainees goes through this unit by answering the questions or filling some options or blanks, etc. Basically, this is a lot of expensive and time-consuming process. Just for example, they are learning a new concept, and they start with in program instruction. What trainees or learners has to do, that they have to answer few questions. The first, there is a first question, and they can answer it. And if it is correct, they'll get a brief feedback on that. Even if it is wrong, also the system will give a feedback why it is wrong, what is the correct answer, etc. Then they can go to the next question. And similarly, simple to complex, more deeper level of subjects or areas can be taught can be learned in a program instruction. Basically, to a certain extent, it is a system-driven process. Self-learning, a step-by-step self-learning is possible in a program instruction. Another method is a T group. T group is basically a simple small group training. But India participants can have in a small group process, and the purpose of T group is to ensure that there is a proper interaction among the trainees. Basically, T groups are formed without of much of specific agenda. It is guided by a facilitator. Another thing, it is a good opportunity to learn interpersonal skills. So that is basically a T group training, a small group, basically a training group. T stands for training group. Typically 8 to 15 number, that is a T group training. The T group is also considered as, generally it's not the classical method, on off the job method, but still it sometimes it even considered as a separate types of training T group. However, it can consider as an off the job, because it is where participants are moved out away from the workplace, and a few things are it moves without much of specific agenda. It should have a presence of a facilitator. It's good that it helps in improving interpersonal skills. That is basically T group training. Vestibule training. Another one is vestibule training. Vestibule training itself considered as a separate form of training. However, it is mostly very close to off the job training method. It's also a kind of near the job training. In a vestibule training, what is happening is in this method, actual work conditions are simulated in a classroom. Materials, files, and equipments those used in actual work environment also can be also used in this training. And this is one of the method of training where technical staff, especially those who deal with the tools and machineries, are given a job education training in a workplace other than the main workplace. Actually, a workplace is simulated, a workplace is reproduced in another classroom kind of setting. That is why actual work environment is simulated in a classroom kind of setting. That is vestibule training. It is kind of a simulation, but in an extended way of doing it. We call it as a near the job training. Near the job training because the training environment give a near experience, a similar experience as a work environment. So that is we call as near the job training. That is why the near the job meaning, which means a stimulator set to be established approximate to the main workplace or production plan. Just for example, if you are stimulating, if you are having a production plan related to training, a setup related to a very similar to production plan can be simulated and training is undertaken. A simulated cockpit to train airline pilots. So that is can be considered as an example. So these are the few off-the-job training methods. Understand off-the-job where employees or trainees are taken away from the workplace and they undergo the training.